Hi everyone, my name is Christina and today I'll be covering my presentation on euthanasia. Euthanasia has been given a variety of names such as assisted suicide, doctor-assisted suicide and mercy killing. Novus states that euthanasia is a deliberate action with the intention of ending a life to relieve suffering. Euthanasia can fall into two categories. There is classified as either voluntary with consent or involuntary without consent. And then there are two procedures to follow. There is either passive euthanasia, where life-sustaining treatment is removed, or there is active euthanasia, where lethal substances are used to end the patient's life. The availability of euthanasia has been legalized in a few countries, such as Netherlands, Austria, and Oregon. However, it has not been nationally legalized in Australia. Euthanasia is a very complex issue, and Harris, Richard, and Kana believe that it involves many legal, ethical, medical, sociocultural, personal, and religious issues. I'll be starting off with the arguments in support of legalizing euthanasia. So we first touch on the legal nature, and this is about dying with dignity. When a person is facing terminal illness, it can take away their autonomy and dignity, which can essentially leave someone with no quality to life. This does not mean they have no quality in life, but they are unable to contribute to their own life or society around them to the best of their ability. Euthanasia will allow them to take back control in deciding how to die. There's the humanistic nature, which is the right to choose. The same as how we have many basic and complex human rights, choosing when and how to die is another right that a person should have. Euthanasia allows a person to choose what happens in their own life. We then touch on economic costs, and this revolves around the cost to keep someone alive. Keeping a person alive in a situation where they are facing terminal illness costs the family, the medical industry, and the government a lot of money. It can be taken time off from work, providing a bed, medicine, or machinery to keeping them alive, or it could be the government funding. Many see that the money spent in this area, if it be for days, weeks, or months, can be used in a patient where they know they will live. Euthanasia shortens the grief and suffering of loved ones. Having this option avoids loved ones having to see their family suffering from a terminal illness. It allows a patient's last few days to be peaceful, surrounded by loved ones, but it also allows a family member to come to terms with the situation a lot better because they know that this is what the patient wanted and it will help them. Lastly, we look at the medical nature. It's believed that where medicine cannot keep a patient alive, it should be used at least to alleviate suffering. This does not mean they should be given more medicine to remove the pain while they remain alive. It is about using euthanasia to stop all suffering by ending their life. There are also numerous arguments against euthanasia. The first argument is in favor of palliative care. So they believe that choosing palliative care should be first preference and that we should invest in creating a better palliative care system and not providing the option of euthanasia. We then look into regulating euthanasia. There is a worry that there won't be proper regulation processes in place, and this will be due to underreporting. In the Netherlands, there was evidence found of underreporting, and this was due to the patient not consulting with a second doctor, which is what's legally required. The third point is about the religious influence. All religions value life and believe it needs to be cherished. The Catholics or Christian mainly viewed life as a gift from God and that God decides when life ends. If a person does take their own life, then it is considered a sin. There is a vulnerability of people within using euthanasia, and this is aiming towards elderly and disabled people in society. Euthanasia enforces the attitude that suffering should not be part of life and that interdependency is a burden. Therefore, it can be taken that those who are elderly or live with a disability and unable to contribute to their own life or society may be seen as a life not worth living. This may result in the elderly, disabled, or their family members abusing the use of euthanasia in a situation where it may not be necessary. Lastly, we look at the cause of the slippery slope. I have a quote here by Chalona and Sanders, and they say that euthanasia leads to the legalization of other forms of euthanasia, or that non-voluntary or even involuntary euthanasia would start to occur under the guide of legalized voluntary euthanasia. The main concern here is that euthanasia will be abused and given to people who either don't want it, didn't give consent, or are unaware of what is happening. The most difficult part of euthanasia is that there is always going to be two groups who are either for or against euthanasia. And as long as that remains, legalizing euthanasia is going to go through a very long journey and process. The Northern Territory, for a very short period of time, had legalized euthanasia in 1995. Within a year later, it was then removed. The opposition who voted for the bill to be removed from the law were mainly led by Catholics, and it was believed that this is what influenced the members of the opposition to have the bill removed. While euthanasia was legal in the Northern Territory, 3 people had used it and 3 people had died from it. Essentially, the law is to serve the people of Australia, and at the moment the law is not doing this for those who are terminally ill and facing death. Yes, we have palliative care, hospice care, doctors and medicine, but at the end of the day the person is going to die, potentially a slow and painful death. Who are we as society and the law itself to prevent the chance for someone going through this traumatic experience to access euthanasia to die peacefully by their own rightful choice? It's inhumane for the law and medical industry to continuously provide medical assistance to those already dying. Every time a person is resuscitated, it is one more day of pain. Every time more drugs are added into their body to relieve the pain, it is one more day of knowing they are going to die. And every time the patient screams or cries in agony, it's one more day of their family seeing a person who once used to talk or laugh or lived life dying painfully at the hands of the law and the medical industry. Legalizing euthanasia is not murdering or killing someone. It is saying that you are a human being and you should be able to choose if this is what's right for you to get through this troubling period in time. There are great arguments on both sides of euthanasia, and the earlier arguments I pointed out may only be a few compared to others. Although the arguments against euthanasia are valid and make a great point, I do believe that euthanasia should be legalized. Euthanasia is not about religion or about palliative care. It is about the person who is living with a terminal illness. The points being made by religious societies or about palliative care are not thinking about the person. Instead, they are thinking about their faith and what is asked of them, or the goal of the palliative care system. There is no doubt that there will be issues along the way, such as misuse or underreporting, and those found doing this will need to face consequences. However, and unfortunately, there are unlawful citizens across the nation committing crimes daily. This opportunity should not be denied due to the points made. There will need to be strict regulations and maintenance in place to make sure that the law is being followed accordingly, and anyone who is not following the law will be prosecuted. Like it happened in Northern Territory, it may be a good suggestion to legalize euthanasia in a specific state or city only and expanding when necessary. Here you'll find a couple of questions to get the discussion going. The first is, why is the law being influenced by religion, which is against making euthanasia legal in Australia? Something to consider is when euthanasia was legalized in the Northern Territory and later removed. The second asks, what will the legalization of euthanasia cost Australia economically and medically? And will this have a positive or negative impact? Thank you for watching my presentation.